Hello friends of Powerhouse Bakery and divas and dudes. So good to be able to come back and share with you. And I tell you, it's been lonely at Powerhouse Bakery without the divas hopping in to say hi and finding some good treats in our fridge. So I hope you're all healthy and staying safe and staying home. And what I want to show you today is some great ways to do some easy cooking at home that allows a little treat every once in a while. So often we have been told that in order to eat healthy, we have to cut out some of our favorites. And some of you might know that I do a lot of research and studying, and Colin Campbell and Cornell University, that puts on a lot of great research, is a group that I've been following quite a bit. And so today I want to be able to share with you some of the values of how do we look at the sugars in a healthy way. How do we look at maybe oils? Where do we get oils, and which ones are the best ones to eat? And then we also look at salt. So kind of an acronym in the nutrition world is SOS. So sugars, oils, and salts. And what are the dangers about these, and where are there some opportunities for us to enjoy some of these items, especially when we're trying to really learn how to eat healthy. And what does it mean to eat healthy when we're trying to also figure out how to make food taste good? And at Powerhouse Bakery, it's always my goal to make food taste amazing, and then also to teach people how do you do that and eat better. And so often people come with an expectation that in order to eat healthy, we've got to cut out sugars, it's going to be dry and not have any flavor. And so one thing I really want to teach people is that doesn't have to be the case. If you've seen some of my previous videos, I've talked about ORC value, the oxidative reaction absorbency capacity. And that's really just looking at how to measure the value of foods, especially their ability to absorb the free radicals that are in foods that can be cancer causing or can be difficult on our immune system. And one of the things I love to have people look at is a hope in making your food make a difference. And when we look at the ORC value of foods, we know that having more nutrient value in those foods absolutely can make a big impact on our overall health. And so, when I push a more plant-based diet, it's because experts are really understanding that so much of the nutrients that we get can come completely from plants. And it's really exciting to see that even though we like to eat meat for our amino acids, there are all the amino acids that we need in plants. We learned about some essential amino acids. And so that term we've been taught as nutrition experts is that essential means that we have to get them from our diet, and that's true. Sometimes we get confused though, and we think that essential amino acids means that it has to come from an animal. But that's not always the case. We can blend our plants in the right amounts and get everything we need. All those essentials can absolutely come from a plant-based diet. And so that the China study and many other research bodies out there are starting to grow in popularity, teaching us that amino acids can be complete, all from plants, and we can eat really healthy when we eat more from the earth. And what about oils? So oils are another one. Do we need oils in our diet? Some extremists would say, no, we don't need any oils, just eat plants. And that's true, but if we're trying to go from good to great, how about if we start somewhere and we pick the best oils to start cooking with, and maybe we can start decreasing the amount of oils that we choose. And then the next level would be, what if we just ate oily plants? So which ones do you think that would be? Well, you guessed it. Nuts are a great source of naturally occurring oils. So I'm going to be showing you in the next couple of videos how we can do a wonderful sweet treat that has no sugar and no oils. It can absolutely be done. Now, of course, we're going to have some naturally occurring sugars, which is a double bonus when the naturally occurring sugars are also loaded with minerals and vitamins and all the things that the plants are using to survive in nature, which is what we want. Those phytochemicals are absolutely the ORC value that we're trying to understand and measure. So that ORC value, ORAC, that I've mentioned before, really is telling us about how much antioxidant power those fruits and vegetables and grains carry with them. So the more nutrition, the better. And when we're looking at ways to sweeten, we can absolutely pick foods that have more sweet and are loaded with the antioxidant power that we want so much in our diet. The other thing that's really cool is we can use some great nutrients that have a great flavor. So let's get started. There's 2 recipes that I'm going to do with you today. And one is going to be using some compote. And I've got some cooking on the stove I'm going to bring over and show you what it's looking like. It's coming along beautifully, and what I'm doing here is I'm just cooking some blueberries and raspberries. So you guessed it, high ORC value fruits, and oh my gosh, they are going to be absolutely fabulous. And I can leave them just as is, or I can add in some natural maple syrup, or I could even add a new product that I found as a sweetener. Or we could leave it just the fruit. When you cook them down, as you see, they're starting to get some wonderful juice included in there. So I'm going to put it back on the stove and let it keep going while I show you the rest of my ingredients. So those are going to cook down for probably about 10 minutes or so, and I'll keep showing you how they're going because they're going to be so delicious. So I'm going to show you some of the other ingredients. So as I mentioned, at Powerhouse Bakery, we don't use regular sugar anyway, but we can do lots of levels. So this maple syrup is a great alternative. We've got some label wars going on right now because added sugar is sort of a strange slippery slope. Would we call maple syrup something that needed to have in its ingredient or its nutrition facts comment that it has added sugar in it when all it is one ingredient? So we're learning, we healthcare professionals, on how to really help the customer or the person at the store trying to understand their labels. But one thing that Colin is really mentioning in the China study and in some of the research is that sometimes we get so worried about numbers and about details that we kind of lose the beauty of the forest when we're trying to analyze the trees. And what I mean by that is when we are picking a nutrient that is a one ingredient that comes from the earth, should we be too worried about the numbers? Meaning that it is going to provide some sugar grams. So in our big picture, so looking at the forest, is our overall diet improving? Is this dish improving? Is it going from good to great by the overall ingredients? And I would say absolutely yes, that's our focus. So we don't necessarily need to look at the numbers or the grams of sugars so much, as long as we are picking really good quality ingredients. Here's another one that I just recently found that's kind of fun. So this is 100% pure cane syrup. And so the front of pack labeling gives us some good information, and so it helps us kind of understand how nature came up with pure cane sugar. Well, we had to start off with a crop and we had to cook it down, and look how beautiful this product is. It looks very much like molasses, and according to the package ingredients and the nutrition information, it is really kind of cool. It says no preservatives, nothing added, nothing extracted. So it's basically cooked down sugar cane. That's pretty awesome. So if we had to pick a sweetener, would there be one that's better than the other? Well, what's scary is that this one says pure cane. So we start to think maybe that means it's sugar and maybe that means it's bad. We go a step further, and where do we go? Well, we look at the ingredients. And if there's just one ingredient and it's minimally processed, chances are it's going to be a good choice. And that's the case with maple syrup as well, and things like honey when it's just the one ingredient. So the experts are trying to decide, how do we deal with that on the label when it is in fact an item that is not processed and there's no added sugar to it, versus if we had a jam and that had high fructose corn syrup added to it, and instead of doing fresh cooked down berries, we added raspberry jam. Now we're dealing with a whole different ingredient, right? So when I show you the product that we're going to make, if we use these great ingredient bases, we can be pretty confident that we're doing a great healthy eating style, so our forest is healthy, we've got lots of plant-based ingredients, and we're picking ones that are minimally processed, which means that they're coming from the earth just like God intended. So great ingredients. Let's keep going over here. So other items that I love to use in the whole cooking process, these are organic cherries, which are absolutely gorgeous. We've got some regular oats. Now you can use thick cut, you can use instant, it kind of depends on what texture you want of your end product. So great ingredients. And we also have some plums, another great way to sweeten. These are pitted plums, and so they're fabulous because they grind up beautifully. Nice option. And of course, chia seeds, which are a wonderful way to thicken, and you guessed it, adding all kinds of nutrition. So the chia seed is high in amino acids, aka protein, also high in fatty acids, which is another important building block nutrient. So fatty acids are the building block to fats. And so remember earlier on I said, do we need a diet that has oils in the diet? And well, a lot of experts would say, no, we don't really need to have any oils added to our foods. And some of us would say, well, how do you cook it then? Well, that's a whole nother topic that we're going to keep working on. And today's a great example of it. But if we can get our fats that we do need, because this is a building block for healthy skin, of course, for healthy neurochemistry or our central nervous system, it's of course important for heart health. There's lots of things that fatty acids are super important to get in our overall diet. So if we can get them in a minimally processed seed or nut, we're doing really good. So again, the chia seed is fantastic because it has not only the amino acids, but it also has fatty acids, and it's got some fiber too. And you remember what category fiber would go in? If we know of our macronutrients, we've got proteins, which don't really have fiber. We have fats, which don't have any fiber. The last one is, yay, exactly, carbohydrates. So carbs are where all the fiber comes from. And so having seeds be able to do all these things are fantastic. And that's why I always encourage the use of seeds in a great diet. So let's keep going here. So we've got our chia seeds. Here is some beautiful fresh raspberries. And in the recipe that I'm going to cook for you today, we're going to cook down the raspberries. And I showed you my little compote over there. You can use any berry. So I'm going to set these up and show you how you just add in a simple light sweetener and the berries and cook them down. And then we go to the next stage, which is making our beautiful crust. So I've showed you the ingredients here. One other item is this beautiful almond flour. Almond flour is super cool because it looks so much like just a regular flour. And so sometimes people will call and ask if we make a flourless cake. And I say, yes, we do. But it's kind of funny because we've turned this into a flour. But this is honestly just ground up almonds. My more common flour blend actually uses hazelnuts. I picked those because they're even higher in minerals than almonds, but almond flour is gaining lots of popularity and it's really beautiful. So that's going to go into our recipe today. One other item I'm going to show you is the beauty of spices. So whenever we decrease the amount of sugars in a food and we're trying to train our palate to go from good to great, we've got to add something else in there. And that's where these beautiful spices come in. Let me get my little measuring spoon. So I'm going to make a traditional baking spice. And what I like to do is add in all the sweet spices. And I'm going to show you the ratio that I like. Of course, you can buy one already made, but it's kind of fun to get to do your own. And you know me, that's kind of my favorite thing, is to be able to add my own touch by my own flavor combination. With a baking spice, allspice, nutmeg, a little bit of cardamom are kind of my favorites. You can also use cloves if you want. You could add coriander, which is typical flavor you might find in apple pie, and of course the all-powerful cinnamon. And if you were watching my last video, you know that cinnamon was one of the top ranking spices on that ORC value chart. So pretty cool. We like to add this in a lot. You might have also heard that cinnamon helps diabetics kind of lower their blood sugar or the insulin response. And I bet you that's true. I haven't studied that a lot, but it makes sense that it's a great spice either way. So I'm doing 2 teaspoons of cinnamon, and now I'm going to do a little less of all the other spices. I kind of want to stagger them, meaning that I'm going to have a base flavor, which is the cinnamon. I did 2 teaspoons. Now I'm going to do 1 teaspoon of my allspice. Here comes the cardamom. I'm going to do a half a teaspoon of cardamom. This is a wonderful spice. It is pretty strong though, and so some people find this one a little too strong, so I'm doing a little less than a half a teaspoon. I love it. It smells so fresh. At first it almost seems like licorice, but then it's like, no, it's not quite licorice either. It's kind of its very own flavor. And then nutmeg. Nutmeg, again, is fabulous, and you can buy little hard nutmeg seeds and grind them, or basically you're just kind of grating them. But I'm going to do a quarter of a teaspoon. And yeah, you can use the whole nutmeg and grind it as you go, but we go through it pretty fast here. So, you know, again, if you're not going to use very much of it, it's absolutely great to be able to use a shredder and just get a little bit at a time. Okay, so notice this. I've done my beautiful blend. So I'm adding more flavor, and I'm also adding more oxidative power. So the antioxidative nutrients of all those spices. Oh, they smell wonderful. Okay, so I've got my berries, my spice, my chia seeds, and now I'm going to add a couple things together. And where's my grinder? Of course, what would be a recipe without some citrus notes? So I'm going to always grate it first, and then I'm going to add some juice, and I'm going to put it right on my berries, because this is going to go into my pot to let them start to cook down. So a recipe will often say 1 tablespoon or maybe 2 tablespoons, and I always say just do as much lemon as you can, because it adds a wonderful layer of tartness. So I'm going to start with this half, because raspberries are a little more tart than, say, blueberries. And then I'm going to add my grater, and I'm going to add in the zest. So you just want to gently grate across. You don't want to get a lot of the white underneath. You just want to get the yellow, bright colored rind. Make sure you wash your lemons first. And you do have to replace these planers every once in a while, because they do get dull. And it should make the whole room smell good when you start grating your lemon. So that's just about right. So this is 2 cups of raspberries. Let me go ahead and mix them together. So 2 cups of raspberries go into my pot. And I'm going to start to add in my maple syrup. And the recipe calls for about a quarter cup. And if I were going to use a tablespoon measure, how many do you think it is? Yeah, it's 4. There we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. And there are 16 tablespoons in your cup. So that's how you can always remember your math. All in quarters. There you go. So that's mixed beautifully, and I'm going to add in my spices next. And again, this recipe I got right off of Colin Campbell's website, and I will share it with you guys. And of course, I never can leave well enough alone, so I have changed a few things on it. But that just makes it so that you have options. So there we go. We've added in the flavor, a little bit of maple syrup, which you could absolutely use this beautiful Cane's syrup as well. And my previous batch, this is what I used. And we are gonna put this in my little pot and get it cooking away. Again, it's gonna start getting thick as the berries break down, and then you add in your tablespoon of your chia seeds. So let's get this started. All right, here it is, ready to go. It looks absolutely gorgeous. Now this particular one, I added a little bit of blueberries because I just thought it would be fun. The one I just cut for you that's on the oven is all raspberries, but it does not matter. They're all gonna be fabulous. And then the previous one I made earlier, I used more strawberries, which is so good. Okay, so there you go, beautiful. So now I'm gonna add in my chia seeds. So notice that it's cooked down, it's starting to get a little bit thicker. Oh, if you could smell it, it's amazing. Absolutely gorgeous. So I'm gonna add in a tablespoon of chia seeds. Again, the recipe called for a teaspoon, but I said, no, let's do a little more than that. And if you want, you could certainly get a lighter colored chia seed, but they normally are dark in color. So there you go, it's looking absolutely gorgeous. Now this is gonna set aside just for a minute as I blend my crust. See, that looks so good. The chia seeds are gonna soften and make almost a gel. So let's see what that happens with that in just a couple of minutes. And the rest is gonna be so fast. I've got my almond butter. You could use cashew butter. You could use peanut butter. Easy choices there. And we've got our oats. So 2 cups of oats and 1 cup of almond flour. So remember our pseudo flour. So we're adding complex carbohydrates, which are the oats, with lots of fiber, lots of B vitamins, and we're gonna add in our healthy fat with the almond flour, as well as now we also have this beautiful almond butter. Now, I have a friend that has a pretty strong allergy to almonds, and so she brings us cashew butter, and we make our peanut butter sweet potato brownies for her using her other butter, and it comes out exactly the same. So it's beautiful. So I'm gonna get that stirring in. The only other ingredient we have for this is our maple syrup. So I'm gonna get that started. And I'm also gonna add a pinch of my beautiful spices to the crust. All right, and then this one I'm gonna go ahead and use the cane because I just want you to see the variation. So it calls for half a cup. This is a third of a cup. So there's 1/3, 2/3. And it's gonna be a little sticky, but that's okay. It's gonna come out just fine in the end. And I'm gonna be pressing it into a pan, and it turns out so beautiful. You could certainly put this in a food processor or a mixing bowl. Just be careful because it's gonna start to get pretty sticky. See how it's kind of worked together fine. Let me just work my hand into it. You can always add a pinch of salt as well. It turns out really pretty. Now with my glass pan, I'm gonna line it with some parchment paper. So I'm gonna show you that. What I've done is pre-cut these little squares. It works out perfectly. So I've got my glass pan, and I'm gonna start to layer in my beautiful crust, and I'm gonna let this kind of come up around the edges because I want it to help me get it out of the pan. So I'm gonna put it all on the bottom here, and I'm gonna leave a little bit for the top. So again, super simple ingredients. Buy some almond flour at H-E-B, almond butter or peanut butter, whichever one you have. Whatever berries you have in the fridge, always have some citrus, so you should have lemon always ready to go. And now we're gonna put our beautiful topping right on top. See how beautiful thick it turned out? So amazing. There we are. And the very last bit's gonna go right on the top. And then this is gonna bake for about 25 minutes. And oh my goodness. See, this could be a great Saturday breakfast, and then save the rest and pack it away for a great hike. And again, you could leave out all the sweetener if you want, but I don't think you need to. And that's something that Colin is really talking about in his latest articles, is we don't need to cut out all the sugars and all the salts and all the fats, but instead what we want to do is pick out the very best ones and then augment it. Go from good to great by adding in extra spices and using as much of the organic ingredients as you can, and it becomes a great snack that you can feel good about. Here is it, my beautiful finished product. Look at how pretty that is. So I'm going to cut you a little piece and you can see for yourself. So this one I used strawberries instead of the raspberries and blueberries. So again, anything goes, all kinds of choices. Cut a nice big serving, and we get to put it out. I'm going to put it on this little piece of parchment so you can see how gorgeous it is. It's going to crumble and be so good. You could serve it with some Greek yogurt. There we go. Oh my gosh, look how yummy. I will have some ready when you want to come visit me. So I hope you have a fabulous rest of your day, and make sure you make something healthy, and send me some ideas of what you have been doing and maybe even what questions you have. I'd love to learn what you're looking for so I can bless you with some more recipes. So thank you so much for visiting me at Powerhouse Bakery.